2017 Hurricane Harvey flooding. Not many could have foreseen just how flooding would have taken place in southeast Texas as a result of Hurricane Harvey. Forecasters knew ahead of time that the hurricane would cause extreme flooding in places, but they did not predict the storm would cause the most flooding in human history from a single storm. Harvey's flooding was so immense because it was blocked by a high-pressure system in the western United States. After making landfall on August 25, 2017, just north of Corpus Christi, Texas, the storm lingered over Texas in the Gulf of Mexico for around 4 days before making a second landfall in Louisiana on August 30, 2017 as a tropical storm. While Harvey did weaken in intensity after making initial landfall in Texas, the center of circulation moved back out over the warm ocean waters in the Gulf of Mexico. The storm continued to have moisture supplied by the Gulf, which fueled the system, so it kept producing heavy rains over the same areas for around 4 to 5 days. This massive amount of rain caused river flooding and flash flooding. Hurricane Harvey was as a result of seasonal hurricane development in the Atlantic and Gulf of Mexico. While the hurricane was extremely massive in strength, being a Category 4, most of the damage associated with Hurricane Harvey was due to the persistent precipitation it brought to many people across South Texas. Storm surge flooding was near the coast also, with another feature from Hurricane Harvey that brought catastrophic flooding to many. In areas along the coast between Corpus Christi and Port O'Connor, Texas, storm surge flooding ranged from 6 to 13 feet above sea level. This flooded many homes and businesses along this area. Harvey is mostly known for the catastrophic flooding it caused, even though it was a Category 4 storm. This emphasizes the notion that most of the damage associated with the storm was flooding related. Before the storm hit, South Texas was experiencing a drought. When the hurricane hit, all the rain associated with the storm could not filter through the dry ground. This resulted in extreme flash flooding because all the water had nowhere else to go. In places that are extremely urbanized, such as Houston, for example, most of the ground had been paved over, and pavement causing most of the rainfall to run off in the same areas, causing catastrophic flooding. Hurricane Harvey has been described as a 1-in-1,000-year flood event. This area of southeastern Texas has never experienced flooding on this magnitude. Not many places have experienced the type of flooding event before, in fact. According to Shane Hubbard, a Wisconsin researcher, the flooding event was something that hasn't happened in our modern era of observations, and we have never seen anything on this magnitude or size. This puts into perspective just how much flooding there was. Considering all human record keeping, there is nothing quite comparable to this flooding event in the United States. At least 20 inches of rain fell in an area larger than 10 states, and at least 30 inches of rain fell in the area the same size as Maryland. In the area between Houston, Texas and Beaumont, Texas, at least 40 inches of rain fell. This geographic region is huge, but the overall storm brought flooding from southeastern Texas to Louisiana and Mississippi. Because of how rare this event was, many people believe anthropogenic factors were at play, such as carbon dioxide-induced climate change. With this progressive rise of global temperatures and sea surface temperatures, it seems ever so likely that events like this would become the new normal. A staggering 13 million people were impacted by Hurricane Harvey's extreme winds and flooding. Around 135,000 homes were destroyed as well, which meant that many people were left homeless or stranded in flooded waters. 88 people lost their lives from this unprecedented storm. After the storm, the number of Americans who filed for unemployment jumped to a more than 2-year high. Several dozen schools remained closed for more than a month after the storm hit because of the flooding damage. For many, their lives were altered forever from this intense flooding. This hurricane caused $125 billion in damage, which made it second and costliest in U.S. history, just behind Katrina. This flooding also impacted businesses and commerce around this area. Around 500,000 trucks and cars were deemed inoperable, which is not good for our dealerships. It impacted the oil refineries in Texas as well. The flooding forced many refineries to shut down. Because of Harvey, 31% of the total U.S. refining capacity was either taken offline or reduced dramatically. The flooding also impacted farmers and crops in Texas. The overall crop losses estimate was about $150 million, as well as destroying homes. The hurricane destroyed infrastructure as well, which is expressed by the very high price for all the damage. One of the appeasing aspects of the response to Hurricane Harvey was the acceptance of pets as storm refugees just like people. As well as humans, dogs and cats were also rescued by helicopter. It was a lesson learned from Katrina when people died because they refused to leave their family pets. Many places along the Texas coast utilize levees in order to prevent storm surge flooding. In places near businesses and homes, sandbags were used in order to prevent flooding. Texas not only utilized sandbags, but Louisiana did as well. Louisiana National Guard prepared about 500,000 sandbags in preparation for the storm. Emergency boats and high water rescue vehicles were also placed on standby for communities in Louisiana and Texas. Some people evacuated before the storm hit, but the storm impacted such a big area that the places where the people evacuated were also flooded. Even with all of the precautions used, the flooding was pretty much inevitable as a result of the amount of rain that fell. Communities have implemented rules and regulations on dwellings and buildings. Around the Houston area, rules and regulations have implemented regarding the height of buildings and homes in the city's floodplain. They are required to be elevated higher off the ground to avoid flooded waters. The distinguishing characteristic of unity among the culture society impacted by the flood positively influenced how people responded to the flooding. Many people helped each other out throughout the storm, which created a better sense of unity among the society affected. Many people lost everything they once owned, which is extremely hard to watch. This garnered the attention of many Americans and organizations who decided to help and provide aid. This immediate response to the flooding stems from how American society believes in perseverance. This flooding event has influenced distinguishing characteristics of culture and society affected. Many people risked their own lives in order to save others. It showed how society can step up and provide aid in times of most need.